Hey guys, so I'm going to do a really quick video on stretching the lower back, just providing a little bit of relief. My sister actually tweaked her lower back, and so she asked me to do just a quick video to kind of stretch it out and give it a little bit of relief. So to start off, we're just going to do child's pose. So you can come to the middle of your mat or the back of your mat, and you can have your knees together, or you can bring them about the width of your mat, but you want your toes to be touching the whole time, and you sink your hips back onto your heels, and stretch your hands forward. Bring the top of your head to the mat, or your forehead to the mat, and just begin to stretch your hands forward. And relax even more into the mat. And then begin to extend your hands out a little bit more, reaching forward. And then slowly bring your hips up, coming into tabletop pose. And then kind of move your hips back and forth, loosening up the joints. And then come back to center. We're going to inhale, arching the lower back, into cat, or into cow. So cat-cow pose. Just going through a couple rounds of these. Inhaling, arching your back, and exhaling, rounding your back. And if this is hurting your lower back, just don't arch as deep. Maybe only come to a flat back. And just work more on rounding through your back and getting a stretch here. And after a couple rounds of those, just come back to a neutral spine and tuck your toes under and push your hips up and back into downward facing dog. And take a bend in your knees so you're almost trying to touch your chest to the tops of your thighs. And really push your hips up to the sky so you're kind of pushing your butt up. And then begin to straighten your legs a little bit more. Continuing to push your hips up, and then start to lower your heels down as much as you can. And if you want, you can still keep a slight bend in your knees, but you're going to feel a little bit of a stretch in your lower back. And lift your hands and just slowly walk your feet up to the top of your mat and fold forward. And let your head hang. You can bend your knees and grab your elbows and just swing back and forth. And just let your lower back release. And just move your knees, kind of bending and straightening them. And then walk your hands around to the left and then to the right. And just see where you're feeling that stretch in your lower back and in your sides. And then slowly begin to roll all the way up to standing. And inhale your arms up to the sky. Drop your right arm down to your side. And begin to stretch your left arm over to the right side. And inhale your right arm back up to the sky. Release your left arm to the side. And slowly begin to bring your right arm over to the left. And inhale your left arm up to the sky. And grab your hands over your head. And tuck your tailbone slightly under. And then begin to open up the front of your chest. and try to arch out through the front of your chest versus your lower back. So you want to open up the front of your chest, not your lower back where you're kind of going back like this. It's more of controlled, where you're staying in this more neutral spine, your tailbone tucked under, engaging your core and tucking it in, and then kind of leaning back. You don't really want to bend in your lower back. It's more of in your upper body. And then come back up to a straight spine and exhale, forward fold. And inhale up to flat back, and exhale, plant your hands down on the ground, come into plank, shift your shoulders over your wrists, and lower down all the way to the ground. And inhale, up low cobra, just using your hands for support, and exhale, lower down. So when you inhale up, you're not using your arms to lift you up like that. You're just using your back muscles to lift you up just a little bit, and then back down. And then tuck your toes under, push yourself back up to plank, and exhale to downward facing dog. Then lift your hands and walk your feet up to the top of the mat, and slowly squat down, coming into a ball. And then slowly roll down to a seated position, bringing your feet in front of you, and then rolling down all the way to your back. So your butt should be maybe like in the middle of your mat, and then lift your legs up to the sky, and your lower back should be kind of sealed on the ground here. And then begin to lift your feet up. You have an option of coming all the way up, or you can begin to slowly drop your feet down behind your head into plow pose, and you can bend your knees as well. Just don't move your neck at all when you're in this pose. You want to think about just letting your legs fall back, and you should feel a release in your lower back. And stretching the entire spine in your upper neck. And then slowly begin to release your back onto the ground. And then bring your shins so that they're parallel to the mat. Your arms to a T. And then just begin to kind of windshield wipe your knees over to the left and then over to the right. Only going as far as what's comfortable for you. So if this is hurting your back, just take very small movements. Come back to center and reach around and grab the outsides of your feet. You can also grab the insides of your feet. And then just bring your back so that your tailbone is flat against the ground. And kind of just go back and forth, rocking side to side. And then bringing your feet back to center and curling into a ball. And just giving yourself a nice little hug, keeping your back completely flat on the ground. And then release. And that's just a short little yoga sequence to kind of loosen up the back and stretch it out a little bit. Normally lower back issues stem from tightness in the psoas, And usually the fix for that is to work the knots out in the psoas and really work on stretching that muscle out. And just a quick tip for that, if you're having a lot of tightness there, I highly recommend taking like a tennis ball or a lacrosse ball and just kind of laying on them on your stomach. So your psoas, so find your belly button, your psoas is to the right and then to the left, so you have a psoas on each side obviously. And this is the muscle that connects your upper body to your lower body, so it connects all the way down to the inside of your thigh and all the way up basically to your lower ribs. So you have this long muscle that when it begins to get shortened, then it begins to cause problems in your lower back. So getting a tennis ball and getting in there and working out the knots and loosening up the muscle is going to really relieve a lot of that tightness and release that pain in your lower back. So finding that psoas that's like right next to your belly button, so take your belly button and find that muscle to the right and take that tennis ball and just lay on your stomach, and you can kind of roll up and down and find the most tender spot that you're rolling up and down on the ball. So if you find that tender spot, just kind of sink down into it and hold it until you're not feeling that tenderness as much. It might be a little bit tender still, but the muscle should start to release after maybe like a minute or two. So just be patient. So this is one way to kind of relieve pain for your lower back. And then you can also use these tennis balls or a lacrosse ball, and you can just take them on the outside of your spine or your lower back and just lay them on your spine and kind of roll up and down and find a spot that feels pretty tender for you. Maybe you're feeling some knots in your back and just holding yourself there on this tender spots. So you can use these pretty much anywhere that you're feeling tightness. There's a spot, your piriformis muscle that connects basically on the back side of your hips. And when those become tight, it also starts to cause a lot of back pain. People kind of confuse with their sciatic nerve because the muscle becomes tight and starts to press on it. So using the tennis balls to loosen up those muscles are really, really great as well. So maybe when you're just watching TV or you're like playing on your phone or, talking with somebody, it might just be, a couple minutes here and there where you're just kind of hanging out and using these tennis balls to loosen up your muscles. So those are my tips for helping lower back pain, and I hope that it helped. Thanks for watching.